My father's hands were shaking as he slipped me an envelope under the dinner table. His eyes darted toward my mother, then back to me. And in the quietest whisper I'd ever heard him use, he said, "Don't trust your mother for 24 hours. Whatever she tells you, don't believe a single word." I had no idea that in the next 24 hours, my entire family would implode, and I'd discover that the person I trusted most had been lying to us for years.
So here's the thing about my family. From the outside, we looked absolutely perfect. My parents had been together for 28 years. Not just married, but genuinely happy, or so I thought. My mom, she's the kind of woman who volunteers at the church, bakes cookies for the neighborhood, posts about family values on Facebook. My dad, he's the quiet type. Steady, reliable, the kind of guy who fixes things without being asked. I'm Marcus, by the way. I'm 34 now, but this happened when I was 32. I was living about 2 hours away with my wife and 2 kids, working in IT. I call my parents every Sunday. We do holidays together. It all seems so normal. But there's something about normal that should have tipped me off. Because looking back, there are moments, little things that didn't quite add up. Conversations that would stop when I walked into the room. My mom suddenly needing space to visit her sister for entire weekends. My dad making excuses about why he couldn't come to family dinners anymore. And I didn't want to see it. You know? It was a Tuesday night in March when my parents invited us over for dinner. Nothing special, just a regular family thing we did once a month. My wife Sarah and I packed up the kids, Sophie, who's 6, and Ethan, who just turned 4, and drove over to their house in Riverside. I remember it was warm that day. One of those early spring nights where the sun stays out way too long, and you're not sure if you should be wearing a jacket or not. My mom had made her famous lasagna, garlic bread, a salad. Everything was set up perfectly on the dining room table, fresh flowers, and everything. We all sat down together. Me, Sarah, the kids, my parents. And for the first 10 minutes, everything was completely normal. We talked about work, talked about the kids' school. My dad asked about the new kitchen we'd been renovating. He even made a stupid joke about how I'd probably mess it up, and everyone laughed. But about 20 minutes in, I noticed it. A shift in the atmosphere. My mom's smile got a little tighter. She kept checking her phone under the table. I could see the glow on her face. And my dad, his jaw was clenched. He was moving his food around his plate, barely eating anything. I tried to ignore it. These things happen in marriages, right? Everyone has off days. But there was something different about this tension. Something charged. Like the air right before a thunderstorm hits. My wife must have felt it too, because she started talking a lot more than usual. Filling in the silence. She does that when things feel uncomfortable. And then my mom's phone buzzed. She picked it up immediately. Didn't even hesitate. Just looked at it right there at the dinner table, which is something she never does. She's always been big on phone etiquette, making sure we put our phones away during meals. I saw my dad see her look at that phone, and something in his face just broke. The rest of dinner was painful, like physically uncomfortable. My dad excused himself to the bathroom and was gone for like 15 minutes. When he came back, he wouldn't look at my mom. Sarah kept kicking me under the table, trying to signal that we should leave. But I didn't want to leave. Not yet. I wanted to understand what was happening. After dinner, Sarah took the kids into the living room to watch a movie while I helped my parents clean up. By that time, my mom had retreated into this weird, overly cheerful persona. Like everything was fine. Nothing to see here. She was talking about the church bake sale, about a show she'd watched, about literally anything except the obvious elephant in the room. My dad was different, though. He was quiet, almost defeated. He kept opening his mouth like he wanted to say something, then closing it again. I was loading the dishwasher when he came up next to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and just held it there for a second. He didn't say anything, just squeezed once and let go. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. We stayed for about another hour. And at one point, when my mom went upstairs to use the bathroom, my dad called me into his office. It's this little room off the kitchen where he keeps his books and his desk. He closed the door quietly behind us. "Son," he said, and I could hear the weight in his voice. "I need to tell you something, but not right now. Not yet." "Dad, what's going on?" I asked. He shook his head. "I'm not ready." but I will be. Tomorrow night. I'll call you tomorrow night, and I'll tell you everything. I need some time to figure out how to say it. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. Is it about you and Mom? I pressed. He didn't answer. He just went back out to the living room, said it was getting late, and we packed up the kids. On the drive home, Sarah asked me what that was all about. I told her I had no idea, and I didn't. But I spent the entire drive staring out the window, my mind going in 100 different directions. The next day, I couldn't focus at work. I kept checking my phone, waiting for my dad to call. But he didn't. I texted him around 4 p.m., "Dad, you okay?" He replied almost immediately, "I need to see you in person. Can you meet me at the diner on Main Street? 6:30 p.m.? Don't tell your mother." My heart dropped. Those 4 words, "Don't tell your mother," they meant everything was about to change. I told Sarah I had to meet my dad for something. She didn't ask questions, just told me to be careful. I got to the diner at 6:15. My dad was already there, sitting in a booth in the back corner, a cup of coffee in front of him that looked like it had been sitting there for a while. The cup was empty. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His eyes were red. He needed a shave. When I sat down across from him, he just stared at the table for like 30 seconds without saying anything. "Dad," I said gently. He looked up at me, and I saw genuine fear in his eyes. "I'm going to tell you something," he said quietly, "and I want you to listen to me very carefully. Everything I'm about to say, it's going to sound insane, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" "Yeah," I said. "Of course." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. A regular white envelope, nothing special about it. He slid it across the table to me. "Open it," he said. My hands were actually shaking as I did. Inside was a stack of photographs. Candid photos of my mother with another man. And not just any other man. It was Tom Richardson, our family friend. The guy who'd been coming to our house for Sunday dinners for the past 4 years. The kind of photos that don't leave any room for interpretation. I think I stopped breathing. I actually think my lungs just stopped. "There's more," my dad said quietly. He reached across and flipped through the photos. "Those are from the past month alone. I've been tracking her for the past 3 weeks. I hired a private investigator because I couldn't believe what I was seeing." "Dad, how—" I couldn't even form a complete sentence. "How long have I known?" he finished. "I suspected something about 2 months ago. She was staying out late, coming home smelling different, being secretive with her phone. And when I finally asked her about it directly, she lied to me. Looked me in the eye and completely flat out lied." He took a sip of his coffee, even though the cup was empty, then set it down with a sharp clink. "I didn't want to tell you like this," he continued. "I didn't want to tell you at all, honestly. But I have to tell you because everything is about to blow up. And when it does, your mother is going to say some very specific things. She's going to tell you that I'm the one who's been unfaithful. She's going to tell you that I've been the one lying. She's going to turn this whole thing around and make herself the victim." My stomach twisted. "How could you possibly know that?" "Because that's what she's already been telling Tom," he said. "According to the investigator, she's been telling him that I've been having an affair, that our marriage is over, that I'm a bad husband and she deserves to be happy. She's been creating this entire narrative to justify what she's doing." I looked back down at the envelope, at these photos of my mother with a man who wasn't my father. This wasn't real. This wasn't my life. "I'm going to confront her tonight," my dad said, "after you leave. And when I do, she's going to panic. She's going to reach out to you. She's going to tell you her side of the story. And Marcus," he leaned forward and made eye contact with me, "I need you not to believe her. Not for the first 24 hours. Give me that time. Give me time to show you the evidence. Give me time to explain what's really been happening." "What do you mean explain?" I asked. "What else is there?" He pulled out his phone and showed me something. Bank statements. Thousands of dollars being transferred to an account that wasn't theirs. And when I asked him about it, he told me something that made everything even worse. "She's been planning this," he said, "for months. She's been transferring money out of our joint accounts, building a separate account. And Marcus, she's been talking to lawyers. She's building a case against me. She's trying to set up a narrative where I'm the abusive husband, and she's the victim who needs to take everything and start a new life." I felt like the world was tilting beneath me. That's when it really hit me. It wasn't just that my mother was having an affair. It wasn't just that she was lying. It was that she'd been planning this, orchestrating it, building a case against the man who'd given her 28 years of his life. How can you be sure about all of this? I asked almost desperately, because part of me wanted there to be another explanation. Part of me wanted this to not be true. The investigator has hours of surveillance footage, he said. Receipts. Messages between her and Tom. I've got everything. And Marcus, there's something else. He hesitated, like he was trying to decide whether to tell me or not. Tell me, I said. Your mother has been having an affair before Tom, he said quietly. I found evidence of another man about 8 months ago. When I confronted her, she promised it was over. She cried. She apologized. She said it was a mistake, a moment of weakness. I believed her. I thought we'd move past it. I put my hands over my face. I felt like I was going to be sick. She's been unfaithful for at least 8 months, my dad continued. Probably longer. Maybe years. I don't know. But what I do know is that she looked me in the eye and promised me she was done. And within weeks, she started up again. With someone else. Does she want to leave? I asked. Is she trying to divorce you? That's what I'm going to find out tonight, he said. But based on what the investigator told me, and the money she's been moving around, I think she's trying to take everything. The house. My retirement. Full custody of your younger brother and sister. Wait, that's something I haven't mentioned yet. I have a sister and a brother, both teenagers. Jake is 16 and Emma is 14. They still live at home with my parents. The thought of this affecting them, of my mother using them as pawns in whatever game she was playing, made me feel furious and terrified at the same time. What do you want me to do? I asked him. He slid the envelope back toward me. Keep this. Look at the photos. Read the bank statements. The investigator's report is in there too. Understand what's really happening. And when your mother calls you, and she will, don't let her convince you that your father is the bad guy in this story. I won't, I said, but the words felt hollow. Because I knew how my mother could be. Charming, manipulative, believable. She'd spent 28 years perfecting the art of controlling the narrative. We sat there for another 20 minutes, just talking. My dad told me more details. About how he'd tried to make the marriage work. About how he'd been so confused and hurt when he first suspected her infidelity. About how he'd hoped that maybe he was wrong. That maybe he was imagining things. But I wasn't imagining it, he said. And I'm done pretending. When I finally left that diner, I felt like I was in a dream. Like at any moment, I'd wake up and none of this would be real. Why Dad called my mom that night and told her they needed to talk. He told her to come into his office, and he showed her the photos. According to my brother Jake, who texted me later that night, Mom screamed, yelled, denied everything at first, then broke down crying. Then within an hour, she did exactly what my dad predicted. She called me. Her voice was shaking, and she was crying so hard she could barely talk. Marcus, she said, I need you to listen to me. Your father, he's done something terrible. He's been accusing me of infidelity. And it's not true. But worse than that, he's been following me. He hired someone to follow me. He's been abusive and controlling, and I can't take it anymore. I didn't say anything. Did you hear me? She asked. I heard you, I said quietly. I'm going to leave him, she continued. And I need you to understand that this isn't about what he's been telling you. Your father has been having an affair. He's the one who's been unfaithful. He's the one who's been lying. And I finally reached a point where I had to stand up for myself. The lies were so smooth, so practiced. She almost sounded convincible. Mom, I said carefully, I need you to not call me for the next 24 hours. Can you do that? What? She sounded shocked. Marcus, you need to listen to what I'll talk to you in 24 hours, I said. But not before then. I hung up on her, and then I sat in my home office and looked at the contents of that envelope for the next 3 hours. The photos were undeniable. The bank statements were detailed and dated. The investigator's report was comprehensive and professional. It documented months of infidelity with Tom, and it hinted at a previous affair with someone else entirely. But what really got to me was the communication log between my mother and Tom. Text messages where she talked about my dad in the most awful way, saying he was emotionally absent, that he didn't pay attention to her, that he was selfish and controlling. And every single accusation was the opposite of what I knew to be true about my father. He wasn't emotionally absent. He was just quiet. He showed his love through actions, not words. He wasn't controlling. He trusted her completely. Too completely, as it turned out. He wasn't selfish. He'd spent his entire life putting her and the family first. But she'd rewritten their entire history to justify her actions. She'd taken his quietness and turned it into neglect. She'd taken his calmness and turned it into indifference. She'd taken his trust and used it as a weapon against him. It was manipulation on a level I didn't even know was possible. The next day, I took the envelope to a lawyer. I needed to understand what was happening legally. The lawyer looked at everything, the photos, the bank statements, the investigator's report, and he said something that I'll never forget. Your father is in a strong position, he said. The documentation of infidelity, the deliberate transfers of marital funds, the evidence of planning, all of this supports your father in a divorce proceeding. In most states, infidelity can impact alimony and property division, and the intentional transfer of marital assets is considered dissipation of the marital estate, which is illegal. I felt something shift inside my chest. Relief? Validation? I'm not sure. But the lawyer continued, your mother is likely going to claim abuse. She's going to say that she had to leave for her safety. She's going to try to position herself as a victim. And depending on what a judge believes, that could change everything. That's when I understood why my father had been so specific in his warning. My mother wasn't just lying about what she'd done. She was building a legal case based on those lies. She was trying to weaponize the court system. I spent the rest of that day gathering evidence. Digital evidence. Text messages between my mother and Tom where she explicitly discussed her infidelity. Bank records showing the transfers. Calendar events where she was supposed to be at her sister's house, but was actually with Tom. All of it. By the time 24 hours had passed, my mother called me again. This time, her voice was different. Not upset, not crying, angry. I know your father has been poisoning you against me, she said coldly. I know he's shown you his lies, but I want you to know the truth. Your father has been emotionally abusive for years, and I finally found someone who actually loves and respects me. The mention of someone was interesting, because she was basically confessing to the affair while denying it. Mom, I said quietly, I've seen the pictures. There was a long silence. What pictures? She asked, but there was something new in her voice. Fear. All of them, I said. I've seen everything. The photos, the bank statements, the messages. I've talked to a lawyer. I understand what's happening. She hung up on me. The divorce was brutal and quick. My mother tried to come after my dad hard, claiming emotional abuse and infidelity, his alleged affair with a woman he'd never even met. But the evidence was overwhelming. The court found in favor of my father. My mother had to reimburse the marital estate for the money she transferred. She didn't get the house. She didn't get his retirement. She got less than 40% of the assets, even with the infidelity being a point in her favor. And here's the karma part. Are you ready for it? Tom Richardson? It turns out he was already married. When his wife found out about the affair, she filed for divorce immediately. And unlike my mother, Tom's wife had her own investigator and her own lawyer. Tom lost a lot in that divorce, probably more than my father did. More importantly, the local community knew what had happened. Tom's infidelity became common knowledge. He had to leave his job because his employer found out about the affair and the lies he'd told to cover it up. Last I heard, he'd moved out of state to get away from the fallout. My mother moved into an apartment across town. She wasn't allowed to move out of state with Jake and Emma. The court saw through her manipulation and gave my dad primary custody. She gets them every other weekend and one weeknight, and there's nothing she can do about it. She's working at a retail job now. She lost her bridge club friends. A lot of people in the community took my father's side once they found out the truth. My mother became the woman who destroyed her own family for a fantasy of something better with a married man. Is it karma? Yeah, I think it is. The hardest part of this whole thing wasn't watching my mother face consequences. It was watching my siblings deal with the fallout. Jake was furious. He felt betrayed by our mother in a way that I don't think he's fully recovered from. He's 18 now, and he refuses to see her. Emma was different. She was sadder. She cried a lot. But she understood, even at 14, that our mother had made a choice. And that choice had consequences. My dad, he's different now. Quieter than before, if that's possible, but stronger. He started going to therapy, which was good. And he's been spending more time with Jake and Emma, really present with them in a way that maybe he wasn't before. He told me once that almost losing them to my mother's manipulation woke him up. As for me and my wife, Sarah, this whole experience actually strengthened our marriage, weirdly enough. It made us talk about things. Really talk. It made us appreciate each other more. And it made us realize how fragile trust is and how important it is to protect it. I still talk to my mother occasionally, but the relationship is different now. I don't trust her the way I used to. I understand that she's capable of deception on a level that I didn't think was possible. And I've made peace with the fact that some people will never take responsibility for their actions. They'll just keep rewriting the story to make themselves the hero. So here's what I've learned from all of this. First, trust is earned, not given. It took me a long time to understand that. I thought family bonds were unbreakable. I thought that just because someone raised you, they deserved your complete trust. I was wrong. Trust has to be earned through consistent, honest behavior, and it can be lost. Second, people are capable of compartmentalizing their lives in ways that are truly shocking. My mother was a volunteer at church. She baked cookies for the neighborhood. She posted about family values. And at the same time, she was building a completely separate life based on deception. Those two versions of her existed simultaneously, and she didn't see a problem with it. Third, consequences come for everyone eventually. My mother didn't get away with it. Tom didn't get away with it. The universe has a way of evening things out. You can lie and manipulate for a while, but eventually the truth comes out. And when it does, the fall is usually harder than it would have been if you'd just been honest from the start. And fourth, your family doesn't have to be your whole life. I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. My father spent 28 years trying to make my mother happy. He did everything right, and she still betrayed him. So at some point, you have to protect yourself. You have to recognize that you can't force someone to be honest. You can't force someone to be faithful. You can't force someone to value your relationship. All you can do is decide what you're willing to accept and what you're not. That envelope that my father slipped me under the table, it changed everything. It changed my understanding of my family, my understanding of trust, and my understanding of myself. And while I wouldn't say I'm grateful for what happened, I'm grateful for how it forced me to wake up and really see the people in my life for who they actually are, not for who I want them to be. Why father asked me not to tell this story for a long time. He felt embarrassed, like it was somehow his failure that his marriage fell apart. But I told him that his only failure was trusting someone who didn't deserve to be trusted. And that's not a failure. That's being human. So that's my story. A story about betrayal, about trust, about family, and about what happens when someone you love shows you who they really are. The question now is, will you believe them when they show you?